I don't like this. Y'all can deal with it.
Well, I mean, here's one thing to do, is if it comes up before the council, the council. I just want to get
Hey, we lied, this said
Drainage.
construction road. It says drainage, road, using it for road.
I'd like to call the East Ascension Drainage Meeting to order for the November 18th, 2019. Mr. Turner, Mr. Johnson are the only two commissioners absent.
No, you got more than that.
Yes, Miss Terry here.
Terry's in Mexico.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Casso. There's out three. Mr. Kluwer, would you give the invocation followed by the pledge?
Would everyone please stand for the prayer? In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for taking care of the people of Ascension Parish. Lord, it's with special intention that we ask that you look upon the Burke family. Mr. Hart Burke, not doing well right now. A legend in LSU football and a definite legend here in Ascension Parish. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hand me that phone.
Good evening. I want to welcome everyone, and anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in. Ms. Liz. It will be, we will have one addition to the agenda, and it would be a letter of no objections to the EBR drainage project. What do you-
Letter of objection.
Letter of objection. There you go.
Letter of, okay.
Big
Ron,
difference there.
I'm sorry, this all came up so quick. Ron, you want to get up and give us a little brief?
Yes, sir. At this time, with the information available, we'd like to add item to 6A, as 6A, and that would be to authorization to draft a letter of objection to the East Baton Rouge drainage improvement projects.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, second.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Discussion?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Kluwer?
No.
Any discussion?
Get a roll call.
Roll call, Ms. Liz?
Councilman Cagnolati,
Yes.
Commissioner Kluwat,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Chairman Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Satterley,
Yes. Motion passed. That will be 6A. We'll move on to number 4, the acceptance of minutes for the October 7th meeting.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Johnny. All right, no chairman's report. Number 6, the drainage report. Mr. Joy, you want to go first?
Good evening, Commissioners. Bryant Hammett and Associates is working on the Lake Park and the Charleston area, investigating drainage issues at both of them. The Lake Park subdivision, they're working on final plans. They're about 75% complete. We're going to meet with that group later this week or early next week to discuss both of them. They have some topo work done, and we will meet with them both in the office and in the field to see where they're at and give them input so where we can get final plans on the Lake Park, and then anything constructive that we can see if we need a project for the Charleston area. Wallace Acres is still under construction. We do have a gas line that is in the way, but the consultant, the contractor that's doing the gas line relocation has been very diligent, showing up every day. And we're hoping by maybe mid-December or a little later, probably with the holidays, that line can be out of the way. And hopefully at the first of the year, we can get our road contractor back on board to do all the drainage improvements for that project. The work that has been done so far, we've gotten positive feedback in the subdivision, because a lot of the, some of the work that was done is at the very tail end, way in the back of Wallace Acres, and a lot of residents there tell me it's already done a lot of good for them. The Fish Bayou project that GSA has been working on, they have gotten approval to start plans for the project, and they've met with us once, and we will probably meet with them very shortly, like in the next week or two, towards their development of final plans for that project. The Pelican Point Parkway cross drain repair project was let for bid. We have a bidder, we have a contractor, because we have contracts signed now. It is a 45 calendar day project. We will hold a meeting later this week for a preparation for the actual work of the project. So we haven't had a meeting with the contractor yet, but we will have that very shortly, and see how soon that we can get started on that project. So we're probably next meeting, we'll actually have some work on the ground done. That's what I have. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Dawson.
Joey, I have a couple related to some things we talked about earlier. One is the this problem with the BFEs and the drainage on the new maps. Can you give me an update on that, or who can?
I had a meeting. Jerome Fournier's group is really the one that handles that, but I did have a meeting with them today. Marcia Shivers is the one that's working on a lot of that. FEMA requires, and I would like to get the terminology correct, but the people that had loamers in the past that are in the Bayou Conway watershed, those people will have to get their loamers redone. The paperwork towards the loamers redone. They can do that individually themselves. Jerome Fournier's office, Marcia Shivers, has been working on that diligently, but if you can imagine, all the loamers that have been done in the Bayou Conway watershed, they have to number the hundreds, like 300 or so. I don't know exactly how many, but it is quite a few. So she's not going to be able to do all of them in that month and a half time period that FEMA has.
Is that just you saying Conway? Does it include Panama, or is it just, or is Panama
the Bayou
included
Conway
in
watershed, which includes Panama and
okay.
The other waterway that's in the Bayou Conway watershed. Everything that was loamed out.
So have we had any conversation with FEMA, or I see our representatives, our U.S. Senator representative is here who helped us the last time. Have we had any conversations with FEMA or someone else? I see HNTB is here too. I mean, they're the ones that submitted these documents about, can we do something, for everybody without, are these people, for example, going to have to go get new elevation certificates?
Either that or they have to put up with the with the flood rates that FEMA is gonna impose upon them.
Well, you mean they're gonna have to pay those insurance premiums that
Yes.
are $1,500 more than they've been paying.
That's correct. So in order to avoid that, you would need to get your own elevation done. Now, Marcia's been working on that, but
Well, I mean, their elevation didn't change. I don't understand.
I agree, it's
I
not.
mean, do they think we jacked the houses up or pushed them down?
Marcia Shivers and Jerome have talked to the FEMA officials, so I really want to defer to them, because that's, they just informed me of some of their conversation with them, and they're saying that FEMA's not budging on that part.
Councilman, what I want to say is, do you want to ask Mr. Martinez to inquire tomorrow to give us some more time to work this out?
Well,
That's
I
not
would
much
like- I would
time
like-
left.
Yeah, I would love to see Mr. Martinez or somebody get involved in this, because, it's my understanding of this, that people have got a December 1 deadline. They have to pay these premiums. Some of them having to come up with $1,500, before December 1st. I don't know. Tommy, are you aware of any of that? No, okay.
If you could check to see if we could get some more time on that to work these issues
Maybe we could
out.
have a meeting with Mr. Martinez and some, related parties and, Jerome and MSC. It was my understanding at one time that, there was something we could do en masse, say, that the parish could do to perhaps cover all these people, maybe I'm wishing or hoping. But if everybody's got to go and resubmit and get elevation certificates, and well, this is going to be a wreck. And
We didn't know that at the time. They never said that at the
No.
time to do that.
And I think I see the generals back there, but HNTB they were closely involved in that with submitting that. They need to be back involved, in my opinion.
Just go ahead and schedule a meeting and,
Okay,
a
I've
quick
got.
one.
All right, thank you.
Very quick.
Yeah, I've got one other, which is,
Excuse me, one more thing. I can have Mr. Jerome Thursday night at the meeting if you want.
well,
Or we
I think
need to have a meeting before then, Bill, I think.
Yeah, I think we need to have a meeting outside the council and have Mr. Martinez here, and maybe he can
Okay.
bring us that connection, FEMA, that was able to work.
We'll get with
wonders for
Tommy,
us
and
before.
even if we got to get somebody on the phone,
Yeah.
deal. Okay, we'll get back with you on that.
All right, the second thing is, maybe this is more Cody, but the Sorrento contract, what is the status of that? Are we,
I forwarded it over to their town legal counsel, and hadn't heard anything back since.
I thought it was on their agenda one night, didn't it? Nobody know that?
Hadn't heard anything.
Okay,
He told me he was gonna bring it to his board, get back, he hadn't reached out to me yet.
okay. So you don't have any word one way or another?
No.
Thank you.
No. Mr. Sadler?
No.
Mr. Kluwer?
Yeah, real quick, Joey, if you can, I see GSA here, can you give me an update on where we stand on the Law Ridge levy extension? What's the progress? The work.
They're working on, a lot of the work that they're doing is with the PLD right now, but they did send a plan set to us, and we've given comments back, so they're, they have plans that they're working on now, and they've made 2 submittals to us, so they're fine tuning that as far as the final plans.
Yeah, but just quickly, based on the pending litigation of 2018 with Livingston, and that involves us moving forward on the Law Ridge levy, and then the early 2019 mutual agreement that we came to, that we clarified that agreement included land acquisition. Do we, maybe Mr. Shaheen could give us an update on, is that part of what's moving forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Right-of-way acquisition remains on hold on that, with that project. We're finalizing our plans. We will submit our plans to the Corps probably sometimes in December. The last two things that we have to do is define, based on our discussions with Ascension Parish, Ascension Gravity Drainage, our SCADA plans, and we're doing a QA review, Geotech doing a QA review on our design, and when that's finished, those plans will go to the Corps of Engineers for their review. At that point, they'll be ready to bid, but we will have no right-of-way acquisition completed at that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I just remember in our discussion last month, month before last, that we cleared, Cody, you can get me up to date and tell me if I'm wrong, but we cleared that as you read the suit. We could go forward with land acquisition.
There was some discussion, Randy, as I recall, and I think, and I'm not sure where we left it at, but there was some discussion. PLD had authorized or had approved moving forward with right-of-way acquisition, subject to East Ascension Gravity Drainage holding them harmless for
Okay.
that right-of-way acquisition, should the project not move forward.
Right.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm not sure where we.
Thanks for the I just want to clear it up.
Yeah.
I got at least two constituents in the audience, and, you know,
Right.
And
I'm
I
not
just-
sure where we left that, though. I'm not sure what the final disposition of that was,
okay.
but that was the discussion at the last meeting.
Thank you, sir.
One quick question on that. Joey, what is the budget for the Law Ridge Levee project? I know when it started off, it was in the upper twenties,
It was
27.
Yeah.
24 million.
Does it still look like we're gonna be able to bill it for that in budget with all right-of-way acquisitions and everything?
Still looking.
Well, maybe, the way I'm sorry, George, I didn't mean to take over the meeting, man. The way I can appreciate the cooperative endeavor agreement between East Ascension Gravity Drainage and PLD, PLD is paying for right-of-way acquisition, then
We're paying for construction.
you're paying for construction.
Okay.
So they have carried the financial, for engineering, permitting. You guys put up, I don't remember what it was. It was over $4 million worth of wetlands mitigation.
Right.
I'm not sure how the breakout was.
4.1 to 4.3.
Something like
That was
that.
back and forth at that same meeting.
Right. And they had, I think PLD had about $3.5 million or so budgeted for wetlands mitigation, and East Ascension Gravity Drainage made up the difference. I
the
think it was
difference.
$700,000-800,000
Right.
that you made up the difference. But they're putting everything through the right-of-way acquisition phase. If the board moves forward with the hold harmless discussion that we previously had, then what would happen would be that PLD would fund the right-of-way acquisition, which we've estimated at about $500,000. I don't remember, I think I sent it to William one day, and it's somewhere between 450 or something like that, so we said 500,000. So they would foot that, you would, if you would hold them harmless, should the project not move forward.
And I just want to dig into that to make everybody understand that the right-of-way acquisition is pretty much, I think most of the landowners are kind of in line with it, but it's not the major portion of the cost of the project. It's probably somewhere around less than 10%, okay?
500,000?
Yeah, less than 1%.
Much less than 10%.
But anyway, so what would this board need? Cody, do we need to go forward with a whole harmless agreement to allow Pontchartrain Levee District to go for land acquisition?
So just to let you know, the lawsuit itself isn't stopping us from doing anything other than it's just kind
Building.
of hanging over everybody's head, but there's no legal stop to anything put from the lawsuit right now. I think it would be whatever PLD is comfortable with moving forward into.
So in other words, we could just go build a levee right now?
Yeah, I mean, the minute
Okay,
you- the
that's
minute
all
you-
I want to know. I've been
No,
trying
look,
to,
the minute you go out for bid, the lawsuit's gonna come up for hearing, so, yeah, it's just hanging over, but there's nothing that stops us.
Well, and-
Other
Well, I,
than
th-
that
I think
agreement-
it's a future project, so I don't have a problem with moving forward with land acquisition, okay? It's there, get the path. That's one of the hardest things to go try to get anyway, to get any project, any municipal project.
So, Mr. Clerk, maybe y'all can help me. PLD's meeting tonight,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
so is one of those items right-of-way acquisition?
Also, that item was taken up, they approved
Okay,
that. a couple
okay,
weeks
okay,
ago.
we good, we good. I'm
So,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter a motion to allow the administration and legal to go forward with an agreement with Pontchartrain Levy District for a whole harmless agreement for land acquisition for the Law Ridge Levy extension.
I'll second that motion, but I'd like to just add that, hold harmless or whatever's necessary to move forward.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I said.
So
Okay.
before y'all vote on that.
I didn't say whatever's necessary, because that's, I don't know where you could hold that in law, but
You need to go ahead and make a motion to amend the agenda to add that and do a roll call, and then you can make it.
I'd like to make a, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Right-of-way acquisition on Law Ridge Levy, to move forward.
Roll call.
Ms. Liz?
Commissioner Cagnolati,
Yes.
Commissioner Kluwat,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Chairman Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes.
Commissioner Satterly,
Yes.
motion passed.
Where you want to put that?
We're gonna make that 7A after the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we'll back up. You finished, Mr. Cloy?
For right now.
Back up for Mr. Sadler. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ron, could you come up to the mic, please, sir? Yeah, since this is my last East Ascension Drainage Commission meeting, I'd just like to say, for the record, how much of a pleasure it's been to work with Ron, Mr. Savoy, and his crews. It is my distinct opinion that he is a consummate professional, and I really appreciate his particular efforts on championing and being a leader in our roadside ditch maintenance program, which I see tonight is on the agenda for for further address. Particularly though, Ron, I'd like to thank you also for what you did recently in my district, District 4, in satisfying the request of Mr. Troy Crassioli, who lives in Seven Oaks, along with 3 or 4 of his neighbors, who I'm sure are very happy with the ditch cleaning efforts that you did recently. We all know, no one in this commission needs to be reminded that that ditch and so many others of Ascension Parish are always hard to address because it involves a lot of times dealing with the railroad folks, and they're not, at least I've been told, overly cooperative. But Ron, it's been a pleasure working with you, sir, and your people, and I wish you Godspeed.
Same to you.
Appreciate that. All right, Mr. Aaron?
I have no questions. Actually, but y'all are doing a good job so on the Muddy Creek riprapping, so thank y'all. Keep it up.
Mr. Todd?
I'm good.
Mr. Johnny?
I
I'm
got
gonna just,
one more thing.
let me hold up here now.
Go ahead, you take your time.
Joy, I just want to let you know, thank you also in Wallace Acres. You know, that fellas, when we started this back earlier, this was our first pilot program that we were picking up on, so I really want to thank everyone for being patient from Wallace Acres, but also moving forward, we're going to have other districts we'll move into with some of these projects if this thing goes good. And I like the feedback that you're getting, and please, let's at the end where we can gauge this and say, look, this is working, and I want to thank Mr. Bill Dawson also. I mean, this is some stuff new stuff that we all, we're doing a little brainstorming, and I think it's gonna be good in the end. But thank you for all the back, keep that moving. Yeah. Mr. Cooley.
Ron, I had one more thing. I talked to you before the meeting. I appreciate all your efforts. We have a lot of, off-road ditches in the Santa Monica area that need cleaning. And you told me how hard it was to get the wetland permit, and that you've got an engineering firm that works on that for us. I just think you need to get off the stick a little bit. They do, not you. I know you're trying. And I just want people to understand that you can't just go clean some of these ditches.
Right.
We have a lot of wetland in District 6.
Absolutely. Just
And,
about all of it.
Pretty much. But, so just keep trying.
We will.
And I hope to be here for the December meeting, okay? All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You up, Ron?
First thing I want to say is, nobody does anything alone.
I hear you.
So, kudos to across the board, because not only did champions of management of that happen, but employees had to address it and adjust to it as well. So kudos to them, because that's what runs the whole show. But kind of go right into the reports as a status update of the off-road ditch focus. It was back in April, we come to you guys and said we're really going to start focusing on that. That number was 440 work orders back then. I gave you a couple of status reports along the way around July or June. We got it down to about 340. Hadn't really gave a good update recently, and really got into it with the managers and looked at everything where we were this month, and we actually broke another milestone. We're below 300. We're down to 250. So that's a steady decline in work orders going down. So great efforts, and amongst all of that, still running your pumping stations and manning events as they come up. So great job to the drainage department and everybody else that puts in efforts there. I know we got a lengthy meeting, and I could go into all the work orders we got, but we got the 14 jobs going on in the parish. And I'd like to take the time, if you guys don't mind, to sort of go into a project demonstration or PowerPoint on a project that we met with Martha Collins in the grants office last week, and Jackie Bowman with the city of Gonzales. It's got to do with a repetitive flooding issue that's been a long time problem. You probably heard about the Silverleaf buyout program that the city's doing. Well, this is areas around that were not, they will not see benefit from that buyout, but still be affected by the repetitive floods of that area. So we got a outline of a project that I want to show you guys that we feel like is worth the effort to start looking into. And in October of 2020, we'll be eligible to apply for another competitive grant. So we feel like this would be one that would probably qualify for that. So it's got to do with Boyle Bayou Conway watershed and the Kluwat Ditch, a ring levee project. So, okay, John, don't put me on the spot here, man. Okay, so here we go in Southwood, and every time you get a backwater event in Bayou Conway, granted, this is not a 2016 event. This happens multiple times a year. Hodgson Road, Kluwat. Just about every time you have a backwater parish, I got you. Yeah, it was working. Okay. So just about every time we have a backwater event with water inundation of a road, Hodgson and Kluwat goes under. Southwood normally is the same way. You can see there, that's rain for rent pumps. Recently, we actually purchased 2 6-inch pumps, so we had to rent them so much, it just was cost benefit to buy a couple of them. But every time that happens, these residents can't get out to go to work, the kids can't go to school, and sometimes it can be weeks that the water sits in the streets. So, okay, what are you doing to me here, John? All right, here we go. So, what we've done is install culverts with some control gates on them. When we have to go out there and pump, those are surrounded by fill and dressed up now, but those gates you see there are shut, and it seals off the storm drainage of Southwood. You install the pumps in the catch basin, and it discharges into the ditches. So here you can see the 3 stars. That's where your control valves are. That's Southwood subdivision to the top of the screen. They discharge out into the 3 outfall ditches and ultimately wind up in the Bayou Conway basin. But this is not just Southwood issue, but Hodgson and Cluett, as you can see. This is not a very bad event right here, and the water's over the road. But if you notice off to the right in the trees, that whole land right there is flooded, and there's a house right there. Well, everyone around that area has to sandbag when these events happen. So what we're looking at is the Cluett Ditch and the Boyle Bayou and Conway Basin being really close together at that exact location. The city of Gonzales actually applied for a Southwood grant. And I'll back up a couple of slides to this right here. They submitted this grant application. Basically what it would do is where you see the blue outline below Southwood would almost create a retention pond, and a pump down at the bottom location says proposed pump. It basically would get that water out of the streets and retain it in the pond and be able to pump it out, and then hopefully they wouldn't have the inconvenience of having their streets flooded. They had positive feedback on the grant application, but at the same time they submitted the buyout program for Silverleaf. So it was one or the other project, and Silverleaf was elected, which is now secured and awarded. So the proposal of this project wouldn't affect the process of the buyout on Silverleaf. So moving forward, like I said, you got Cluett Ditch, which starts at Silverleaf and Southwood. And what happens right there is Bayou Conway also reaches right at the same location, and you have the boundary between the two. That's sort of what happens there is in backwater events, Bayou Conway spills over into the Cluett Ditch. So this is a project that would benefit that whole area, being Hodgson, Cluett, Southwood, south of Highway 30, and multiple council districts. So this is more of a visual of what happens. You can see the arrows showing that Boyle Bayou and Conway at that point, that watershed spills over into the Cluett Ditch, which is supposed to go to Marvin Bro. If you look at the red arrows, you'll see the following of the path of the Cluett Ditch. You look really close toward the right of the slide, it goes under the railroad trestles and makes more than a 90-degree turn in the opposite direction, and it flows under US 61 and ultimately drains into Bayou Francois. Well, Francois is flowing in a southeast direction at the capacity rate of the pumps at Marvin Bro. It almost is hitting a water dam and not draining out very well. So we did in the past, I think Mr. Rue had looked at doing a spillway type project to alter the route of discharge of the Cluett Ditch. Ultimately, what they ran into, though, is a high-pressure gas line that parallels the existing Cluett Ditch. So dealing with the pipeline and what the Corps would approve, it only allowed for the ability to have a 1.5 deep cut, because you can only have so much of cover allowed after the excavation over the pipelines. And the Corps actually didn't issue a permit on this project because at the time it wasn't taking into account the two watersheds. It was just looking at the mouth being rerouted to Francois. They didn't have enough hydraulic benefit to the channel to award a permit. So we feel like at the source of the issue, where the watersheds mingle together, is where the source of the problem is, overloading the ditch and the capacity. So the proposed outline of what we're talking about here is a ring levee as the city had applied for at the southern end of Southwood, but in addition to that, follow the route of the Cluett Ditch. And if you go out to the southeastern part of it, that pump site there, there's another outfall ditch that goes back to Cluett Road. I feel like if you would follow these contours of the areas that flood with waters and surround them and separate them into two watersheds, we already have the staff to man these two pumps. We man two pumps now day and night at Southwood. So it would not increase the manpower needed, but I think it would protect all of the areas that would not benefit from the Silverleaf buyout, which is a lot of residents along Hodgson and Cluett area. But what it'll also do is benefits of the non-use of Hodgson Road. You have a lot of residents that live at the dead end of Hodgson, and I think there's Elizabeth Lane and maybe a couple other dead end streets down there. Well, they're affected by South Hodgson going under too. They can't get in and out, go to work, and service their needs of public safety and welfare. So you have that, and also the people that live all along the Cluett Ditch. If you enhance the drainage of the Cluett Ditch, you basically would have benefit to all the residents downstream of this area. So again, this is sort of the outline of what we feel like would be a project to look into. And the purpose would be to alleviate backwater flooding, provide flood protections to areas that currently have repetitive flooding within the existing infrastructure of the parish. And it would increase the quality of life of those residents that have been dealing with this for years. And it would improve the safety and welfare of the impacted areas. Project details is, we are sort of already going over that. The benefits is what we said, it would be a multi-district project, 10, 3, and 2, and also the municipality of City of Gonzales and the parish. The needs for the project are obviously funding, engineering and cost-benefit analysis, H&H modeling, right-of-way acquisitions, permitting, board support, and public buy-in. So there's a lot of things to do here if we want to try to do this project, but we feel like it's something that it's worth looking into and possibly getting this as a grant awarded to the parish. So we would hope to possibly bring you guys a proposal on the engineering retainer to start looking into this. And there is another area that kind of does the same thing down in the Sorrento area by Brittany Street, along Bayou Conway as well, where you have the Sorrento lumber ditch that sort of does the same thing there. So we just wanted to get this out in front of you guys and introduce it to the public and you guys as the board to start looking into this.
Sure.
Question?
Mr. Todd?
Yeah, Ryan, appreciate this. Back when I first started on the council, '96, I had that district, and we started then researching, the ditch that goes and it crosses Cluart and goes all the way to Sorrento, comes out by, it had many permit issues and stuff like this, and never got done. And if we can do something with it, it definitely would help. But, we definitely got to help the lower end first coming up, Can't put any more on them, but
Well, I think that this
it is an old project for sure.
I think this would help them, Todd, in the fact of keeping the water from getting to the low end. If you quit the Bayou Conway from overspilling into that watershed and overloading the Cluot ditch, I think that's where your low end benefit's gonna
Yeah.
come from. But we need
You
to
might want to
validate
look on the books. There was a study at one time, and it was just feasible. It was a little bit more than what they want to fund, especially with permits, because it's definitely got a lot of wetlands permits through that section.
Mr. Clue?
Ron, thank you. It's been a thorn in everybody's side, like Todd said, for a long time. Just sometimes when we look at ring levies, you've got benefit, but you got a lot of responsibility with a ring levy. Once you close something in, you stop water from coming outside, and you got to get rid of what's inside. So that's all been thought through on the pumping.
Well, we sort of already have to do it on Southwood now. And,
I know on South.
we've got some pumps in the budget for 2020, these 24-inch tractor pumps that we pretty much have them at our disposal, and if one goes down, we got multiple tractors.
I mean,
that
they
run.
work good for like Buxton subdivision, place like that. I just want to make sure,
Yes, sir.
that's, because we had, and ring levies, they serve a good purpose, but they need to be managed.
Absolutely. So it's just something to look at.
Mr. Bill, you had something?
Yeah.
It's okay. I appreciate this. I mean, it's much needed down Hodgson Road in that entire area. But I'm curious about a couple of things. Is it going to be a grant application for this? Is that what I'm understanding, or what?
We would like to, but meeting with Martha, you can't just apply for a grant. You've got to have a H&H model and benefit. So that would be the start of, I'm not saying we need to go full-blown design this right here. I think we would need to start off with a merit of the project. What are the downstreams of it? I think that's what we would be looking for, is a high-end look at this. Is it feasible to move forward? And I will tell you this, that the city of Gonzales had positive feedback from, I think it was FEMA that they applied to, and it sounded like they were willing to award the grant and thought it was a good project.
Is this something the city of Gonzales participate with us on?
Absolutely. We met
Okay.
with Jackie
Will they-
last week about it.
Okay, so they'll participate in the design, the H&H model,
Oh,
the
we'll
cost of
certainly
that?
have their input in it, yes, sir.
What are you looking for tonight? Are you looking for something to move forward with this, with the engineering or the high-level design, or what?
I think
Do
we
you
would
need
probably bring
anything
it to the next drainage board meeting, as a proposal. I just didn't want to come to the board with a proposal and nobody knew about the project. I just wanted to
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
get it in
well, I
front of you guys.
appreciate that.
Any, Mr. Aaron?
How many houses are affected by this drainage problem we have there? Approximately, I don't need it.
I would say inside the ring levee, probably around 50 to 100. And then ultimate benefit across the whole project, it could grow to 100 plus, maybe a couple hundred, but that's what the analysis would determine.
Okay, and you mentioned Gonzalez's input. Would they also contribute funding?
I would have to, I can't speak for them, I'd have to go talk.
I wasn't sure if that was discussed.
They
I
did
thought that's
mention
what I
willing to
had.
participate.
You said input, and input and funding are two different things.
Participation, that's what I meant.
They give out
Well,
participation trophies all the
Look,
time.
I certainly don't want to commit the
Right.
city of Gonzales to funding this. I would definitely go back to them. I'm talking about participation as far as input thus far. They have not talked about dollars coming to this project, so we can certainly discuss that, but it hasn't been this far.
Yeah, let's discuss that. Thank you. Good job.
Anything else, Ron, on
I've
your?
got one other thing with Miss Martha. May wanted to give a
Sure.
status report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. You know, a while back, we talked about these national grants and being ready to apply for. And I know, Aaron, you had sent me some information. We did meet with Ron and Joey and a couple of others to come up with a project, which we will apply $4 million. It's a $4 million project. But in order to do that, we have to be ready. So the part that Ron is going to be talking about later at the next meeting is that we need to get those things done because you have to have that to apply for the grant. So this is working as a team to try and put this together, get the information, and like you were saying, Bill, make sure that we don't interfere with something, or what Randy was saying with the bowl, this thing. That will all be determined, and then next year we'll have all our information ready and apply. And it goes every year, so we can apply for a $4 million project through the national FEMA grants, but they have to be ready to say, we have all this information. So the message I'm sending is that we need to support this to get somebody on these projects that will meet the criteria, give us the tools, and then we can be ready to go. So on that portion, he'll bring that to you next month. But I do want to give you an update on, we applied for the 4277, which is a $33 million project for Conway and the Marvin Bro pump station, which is a 4-tier type thing. I was able to talk to President Matassa today to give him an update. We were awarded the phase 1 of Conway. So that means this portion of it will start in. We have 1 year to complete it, to get the information that they need, which is similar to what Ron and them gonna do on this other one. But these have to be done before we go into the construction. Just like Muddy Creek with that portion, we had to go through all the preliminary stuff up front, then they reassessed it to see if our construction met with the plans. You have to have plans ahead of time. So, we're excited about this. I know it's a long time coming. It will take a little bit of time. But we're still working on the Marvin Bro. They send us requests for information. We've gone through 3. Every time it's getting to be a little more specific because FEMA's changing with their people and what they're looking at. So these aren't quick fixes. You know, it takes time, and we're steady working towards it, and we're making progress. So this is the first one. So we'll get through this. In addition, on these 4277s, there is an opportunity for us to get the match coming out of the Watershed Initiative with CDBG. to match these funds. So if that does go in effect, they're working on how it's gonna be done and how the money will come. Whether it goes through this way, FEMA, it goes through CDBG, we'll have to work that out. But that is exciting to know that this could possibly be matched and no funds come out of it. It would be like a global match. So this is where we are. I thought you might want to hear a little interesting, good news.
Very, very good news, very good news.
So,
Good. Mr. Kluwer?
Yeah, Martha, you said, you used the term projects ready. We got an old term called shovel ready. That means
Shovel-ready,
it's
the same
100%
thing.
designed, everything all up front. Is that what we're talking?
well, I think that specifically on drainage projects,
No, that's
there's
what I'm
certain-
talking about.
that's
What we're
right.
talking about tonight.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna ask you on this, Ron, on your proposed project that you're gonna come back to us with, for the Kluwat ditch and all, to go for grants, that needs to be, there's a big difference in, hey, little feasibility versus
no, there's a
100%
laundry list.
design. So to apply, do we have to have 100% design? Or what level of design do we need?
From what I understood, we need an H&H model supporting
Just
the
H?
project,
Okay,
and you're gonna have to have a budget and
There's a laundry list, and
Yeah.
I could get that
Okay.
to Ron in there, but
Yeah.
there is a stipulation that you'll have to have some type of plans, at least
Yeah.
50%, maybe 85%, so it's already in the works portion. So if they do award it, they know that this is ready to go.
thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Bill?
So get a little further information if you don't mind. So the 33 million, did you say phase one of the 33 million CDBG grant was approved?
Phase one for the project. There
Which was a 33 million,
No, it was,
Sorrento pump station.
Sorrento.
that's the
pumping
Sorrento,
station.
is this the Sorrento pump station? So the improvement of the basin and additional pumps, right?
Right.
Prioritize the pumping station first, then the reservoir, then the channels.
Okay.
The budget that was submitted is looking at engineering the capacity of the pumps. So you're looking at adding a pump and probably a little bit of channelization to that bay. So that will be the first phase, but the first phase of that is engineering of it.
So that's all we have approval for right now, is phase one to design the pumps and to design the basin, I guess, is that, and they're gonna reimburse us for that, is that, how's that,
Yeah,
okay? How much is that for?
We
How
have,
much
What's
do we
your
we
get?
awarded 416,000.
Which is what, is that what we asked for
470.
without the match, or is that, there's a
No.
match on top of that?
The match would be 138,832 of the four.
Okay,
It's a
okay.
75-25.
So 75-25.
Yes, sir.
Well, great, great.
So, now, going back to what I said, if the CDBG funds come about, we probably aren't gonna sign this, contract until we know if the match is coming. If the match is coming, we'll wait and let that be in the initial portion of it.
But what I'm,
Because CDBG is gonna, the match portion is important.
the
because-
33 on the rest of it,
The
on the
whole
rest
thing,
of the
yeah.
33 million, but
Yeah,
what does it, approval of phase one, what does that mean? Does that mean that you'll get the rest of it, or does that mean that you're gonna, right now, they just want more
they
information?
want more information and they're willing to
And
do it.
they're willing to pay for it?
They want updated budgets, they want signed and sealed
Well, I guess that's a good sign.
plans, they want, the H&H done, the BCA's done.
Well, it only took us 4
permits.
years to get here, so.
Yeah, but this, we only have a year on this, so once we enter into this, you got a
Well, do we need a
deadline.
motion, or do we need anything to do that?
We need
No.
more information.
No, it's-
We need
it's-
more information?
No, this is just an update to let you know where we
Right.
are in this.
But we don't need anything
No,
to,
no, sir,
No.
I'm
to
just
do
letting
the
you know,
matching or
we
anything
haven't
else?
gotten
All right.
contracts or anything, so.
thank you, Martha.
Any
Ron.
other questions for Ms. Martha or Ron? Ron, you finished with your report?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to number 7. That's a clarification, Mr. Ron.
6A.
You got a 6A there.
6A, letter of
6A.
objection.
let's back up. Ron, go ahead with that letter.
Oh, I got the motion.
I got the motion.
Oh, you want-
Motion
got
by
the
Mr.
motion.
Hill, second by Mr. Randy.
All right, look, before you take a vote on it, you gotta open it up for public hearing, because you added it to the
Move to
agenda.
open up public hearing by Mr. Johnny, second by
Second.
Mr. Todd.
Motion to close public
Move to
hearing?
close by Mr. Aaron.
Second.
Move to close by Mr. Randy.
Motion to move the
Second.
letter of objection to East Baton Rouge Parish.
By Mr. Cluart, second by Mr. Todd. Any objections?
No,
Motion
no.
passed.
Just real
Let's go.
quick on comment, who is this letter going to? Who all is it going to? Is it going to our state? I would like to see that letter also copied to our state representatives and senators, our governor.
So let's clarify that it should be addressed to the State Bond Commission.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you
good
got
with where it's addressed. I just want copies going out. I'd like for our state folks that's representing us to know the position we're in.
I
And
don't know
also
when
our
that
federal
meeting is.
delegation.
Do you know when the meeting is? We gotta get it pretty quick.
Was
I
it
know.
Wednesday or Thursday?
It's
You-
It's
Mr.
week, I
President?
don't know if it's Wednesday or Thursday, but Mr. Shakespeare is on the committee, we need to send him a copy.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So with that, like I said, I'd like it sent out to our state delegation, our governor, and our federal delegation,
I just-
our congressman.
Sure,
Can I have the floor for a second, Mr. Chairman?
sure.
This is the letter of East Baton Rouge Parish. The bond commission is Thursday. That's the bond commission meeting. Is there any way for this motion to say letter of objection, subject to review of the model? We have not had a chance to review the model yet. We've attempted to run the model twice that we received from the Corps regarding East Baton Rouge Parish projects, and we've not been able to run it. We're meeting with the Corps tomorrow to review the model and find out what the issues are.
So I guess it might,
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Well, Glenn, it's been my experience for the past couple of years that you don't need to review any model to object to something.
Well,
I think we have a pending lawsuit
I'm not
based
gonna-
on that same scenario.
I'm not going to object, but I understand you. I understand you.
You can just object.
Yeah, I object.
You prove it later. We got a couple of years to prove it.
So, Mr. Bill, you
Anyway,
gonna
that's
go
my
ahead?
comment.
well, I mean, just a clarification, I think it's just that the administration, we're just giving them authority to write the letter. We're not telling them exactly what to put in it or not to put in, but we need to object.
I refrain my comments and agree with
Mr. President?
Mr. Shaheen's suggestions.
At this time, we just really looking for more information, and y'all have to approve the letter, so.
Sure.
If you, as far as objecting it, because we don't have enough information, and then we could bring it back up at the next drainage meeting if we get the right information that shows there's no impact. One thing that got me puzzled is, from what I understand, the model was done on 50 and 25 and 50 year. But we getting held to standards over 100 years with the Livingston deal.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
I would like to have my motion contain Mr. Shaheen's comments, because based on the fact that may spawn, somebody to come bring us some modeling that they have. It'll bring out, you ask the question, sometimes you get an answer.
Cody, you have it? You good?
Got it.
So we have a motion second. Any opposition to the motion? The motion passed. All right, number 7, that's a clarification, Mr. Ron.
It's just a clarification to the October 7th, 2019 meeting minutes, Ascension Parish drainage improvements for Pelican Point Parkway cross drain repair, TBS project number 2019.0266. This was made a motion to approve it, but it forwarded it to the council. So we just want to strike that line. We need to strike the line and to move to the parish council from that minutes.
Sure.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Bill.
Second it.
Second by Mr. Aaron.
Since I made, I think I made the
You made
previous
that
motion.
So, any discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion passed. Number 8, approval, Mr. Ron. I'm sorry, Mr. Enlow.
We have 7A, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Laurie's levy
Got a good
extension,
sidekick
land
tonight.
acquisition. That's what a good vice chair's for.
7A, that'd be the moving forward with the right-of-way acquisition for Laurel Ridge Levy. Coach, you go,
Yeah, we're good. I actually just got a message from Dwight Poirier. It said they're willing to move forward if we agree to indemnify them.
sure, that motion was made.
With that, I have that motion to move forward, to work with, a whole harmless agreement with the Punch Train Levy District for right-of-way acquisition and any other construction for the Laurel Ridge Levy Extension Project.
You just
Second by
you need
Mr.
to open this one up for public hearing before you take your final vote.
Again, moved by Mr. Johnny to open, second by Mr. Todd,
Motion closed.
motion closed by Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Johnny.
You got my motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Cluart, second by Mr. Todd Lambert for the right-of-way, acquisition on the Laurel Ridge levy. Any opposition? Motion carried.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
we take care of some business tonight. Approval, that's gonna go to Mr. Enlow.
Oh, I gotta pass these down.
Come on, Vice Chair.
I thought I was a good vice chair. I voted on this, but wasn't. God, I don't see nothing in District 6 on this. Millions and millions.
There'll be a roundabout over there.
Yeah, we'll get you
Yeah.
some.
Thank you.
What you have, Ronnie? 20 years. Isn't that right? Nope.
Mr. Enlow.
Yes, sir. I don't have an agenda in front of me for the item, but thank you. Appreciate it. We have a handout that should be passed out to you all. We've broken down the yearly construction projects for the Move Ascension program, and we've taken the drainage costs out of each project and separated them and broken them down into years. Now, you'll see, like, say, for instance, the column 2020, these projects are going to roll into 2021, maybe 2022. They're not just going to, specifically stay in each year, obviously, but this is a request to, for the year 2020, to move $4.3 million from the Drainage Department to cover the drainage costs associated with Move Ascension projects. And what we're doing basically on each project is increasing the total capacity for the ditches and all the drainage structures to a 10-year conveyance. 25-year on some, but 10-year conveyance on most of them, and some of the cross drains are 25 and 50-year. So if you'll notice on the two Roddy segments, there's 3 bridges, and I've broken it down where we did a cost share, or I'm showing a cost share of 50-50 with the road construction fund. So we would pay for half the bridges, half of the bridge cost. And again, these are estimates. So it's just a budget number we'd like to move over to the Move Ascension to cover these costs.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Aaron,
Second.
second by Mr. Randy. Discussion. Randy.
Yeah. Mike,
Yes, sir.
based on, down in the bottom where you got drainage costs.
Right.
And, you got 2020 basically at 4.3 million.
Right.
2021 at 2.1 and 2022 at 4.3.
Right.
And, that's the shared cost, or that's the total cost of the bridge? I want to make sure for everybody else.
Did you say the bridge?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
said
so-
drainage cost.
Right, so it's kind of some voodoo here, it looks like. But
Yeah,
if you take the bridge only column, 733 and then 1.3.
right.
And you cut those in half, add them together, and that's how you get the total 10.674. Right?
You do what?
Okay, so the bridges, the column which says bridge only, for the Roddy Road segments, the 733 and the 1.3 million, if you add those together, what's that, 2 million roughly? So half that, so it's $1 million, and that's why there's a difference of the total cost, 11.69 million, gives, you take $1 million off of that, it's 10.64 for the 3-year total. This year, right now, at this time, we're asking to move over 4.3 for the 2020 projects.
So basically, you're saying that the little small block at the bottom is total drainage costs, not
Total,
just bridges.
total for 3
That's
years,
what I
yeah.
wanted to-
I'm sorry. I tried to figure out the best way to
Yeah.
to put this down with colors and all that stuff. It didn't go well, I suppose, but.
And we're only moving 2020, correct?
Correct,
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. I just wanted to kind of show, for each project, again, these are budget estimates now. Tomorrow we'll have a good idea if we're on track, because Ashland and St. Landry is going to come in.
Well, that 4.3 doesn't have any bridge money in it, right?
Correct, because that's in 2022. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question.
I'm not finished.
Guys, I know it's part of the road project, and here we are looking at drainage funds for this, and I thought we had funding already set aside in the road projects. And we got to be careful, because our drainage funds are dedicated. Our millage tax is dedicated for maintenance of drainage, and our sales tax is for major drainage. And we're looking at taking 4.3 million out of drainage for some projects that's probably a road ditch or a road project. And we just got to be careful with that, because that funding for drainage is dedicated. And we went through this several terms back, administrations. I know you got down here several things, $200,000 for, roundabouts. What is that? Drainage? That's road drainage. That should be part of the roundabout funding, not coming out of major drainage. This is major drainage. This is not just maintenance. This is major drainage. We're supposed to be the major canals and to keep our, that's what it was set aside for. And y'all can look up the tax on it. That's exactly what it states, so appreciate it.
Mr. Cloyd.
Yeah, Mike, you've answered most of my questions, and I'm assuming that everywhere we replace a bridge, we're gonna definitely, Ron, I wanted you to step to the podium. You feel good with this dollar figure moving in that direction?
I feel like as long as we receive a drainage improvement out of this.
That's what I'm talking, that's what I want.
Justification of the, and we've talked about it briefly, but anywhere we can go curb and gutter or eliminate maintenance or improve the maintenance benefits out of these areas is what we're sort of looking into, but.
I mean, I feel like any of the bridge construction is gonna be better than what the original bridge construction is now.
This first one, there's no bridges in it.
Right.
No, but it's a lot of culverts and
Right.
ditch work at those intersections. And some of the bridges, I will say, a lot of the bridges in the parish were hit by the flood. And you just can't get that integrity back without some severe rehab. And I know the Roddy Road ones, we're already getting inspection reports on several of those. But so as long as I think we can justify that their benefits are there in drainage of these improvements, the wishes of you guys, the board, to make.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that just for years, we've took care of bridges and major drainage, that even when it's incorporated with a road, okay? I understand the tax base, but.
When it was related to a drainage need, yes, sir.
Mr. Johnny, you had anything? Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Mr. Sadler.
Yeah, Mr. Enlow, I'm curious from what Councilman Lambert asked as a follow-up. So let's say like on Roddy Road, we have widening projects there. Henry Road widening, I see the word widening under Seabrook, Germany Road, et cetera. But specifically, things like roundabouts and all, I mean, so are we using, sort of like if you widen a road and you have to put a culvert in it in order to support the widening of the road bed, otherwise, if you just keep putting asphalt, it's gonna slough off into the ditch, so to speak. Sort of like what's done on Swamp Road, for example, and so forth. I could sort of see the use of drainage funds for, this is going to the Move Ascension program, to transportation, I guess, best word. But how about some of these other things like roundabouts and all? How is it justifiable to use these dedicated funds Mr. Lambert asked you about to go into more of a transportation type of a need?
Well, I think maybe the argument or the discussion would be if it's major drainage or not. I mean, it's all drainage, but there's drainage components to every project, as you well know, in Louisiana. So we're taking an intersection that has maybe ditches that hit a cross street, and you're widening out and putting culverts underneath the whole profile of that intersection. So there are drainage improvements in every project that we touch.
Even in roundabouts?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, you're moving those ditches out, and all of your clear zones, as required by the standard road design manuals, suggest a certain slope, back slope and foreslope. So all the road profiles we're doing, if Seaboro, Duplessis, all these roads have the drainage ditches are whatever they can fit a scoop in to get out. And that's what it's been over the last few years. I'm not sure what year design capacity that is. I probably guess not even a 2-year, but this is all going to be 10-year storms. You're lowering the maintenance cost because you're putting a proper slope on the back and the foreslope. So you're not going to have as much erosion, and it's obviously going to be more safe. So, but there's drainage components in every project.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Follow-up question goes to legal Cody. Since my colleague OJ is not here tonight, in fact, he's not even on this body, but we always ask, legal is this correct? We can be using these dedicated drainage funds for the purposes of which Mr. Enlow just described, and we're on good ice? Or
From the legal perspective, you can. I think it's you guys as a legislative body to determine, whether you think it's justified. When we sat down and had a meeting with Ron and Mr. Enlow and I, that's what I brought up, that they would have to look at it and basically make the justification that the drainage improvements are equal to the value that y'all are committing. Now, the one thing looking at this right now that I would probably suggest is, and Mike, you can probably follow up on this, but you made mention that it was $10 million over 3 years, and that you were breaking it down, 4.3, 2 million, and another 4.3 in 2022?
Yeah.
If the value that you're transferring per year is not matching up equivalent to the actual projects you anticipate doing that year, then you guys need to do this as a cooperative endeavor agreement between the two bodies for the total 10. That way you don't have to transfer the exact amount of money every year.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bill?
No, he covered mine, thank you.
Okay, Mr. President.
If everybody's aware of that big roundabout on 22, there's some major drainage work going on by the state.
Yeah.
And that's every time you mess with the road.
Yeah, depends on the area, yeah.
They built it.
All right, do we have any other discussion on the transfer of the 4.3 million?
Oh, I was just, if y'all gonna approve this, approve to enter into a CEA for the entire amount, and I'll draft something up.
All right,
Okay,
Mr. Lawler?
Yeah, I'll make an amendment that we approve entering into a CEA. I thought we already had a CEA, but we'll approve entering into the
And we
CEA.
may, I'll go back and pull it and see what it covers, and if we need to add something to it.
Okay, but if we have to add something to it, or if we have to approve another one, I'll make an amendment that we approve a CEA for the amount of $10,674,865 for drainage improvements to be transferred into the Move Ascension project over the next 3 years. Is that proper, Cody? Thank you.
Moved by Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. Johnny. Any opposition? Motion passed.
Thank you.
All right, number 9, amendment, will go to Mr. Ron.
We got amendment number 6 to the roadside ditch maintenance contract with on-grade construction to increase the contract by additional $1 million and the contract not to exceed $5.25 million. And the reason for this is we're getting close to the end of the year. We have a remaining balance of a little over 200,000 left, and it won't take long, probably one more task order, and they'll be pretty much out. So this will get us into I would say the first quarter of 2020, thereabout, to get the start of the new year going.
Make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Bill, second by Mr. Sidley.
Just
Discussion,
quickly.
go ahead, Mr. John.
Ron, how's that going? I know that in my district, everybody's just tickled pink. Is everybody else, you getting good feedback?
Absolutely. I think this has been for one, we'll see how the outcome comes in 2020, how far we want to take this program, but I really feel like it's got our roadside ditches back into compliance after the flood of 16, all the debris pickups and the hits that our road ditches took. I think it's really done a sweep over almost the whole parish now. It's really been a benefit, absolutely. And we are seeing in these flash flood type events, you're not seeing near about the amount of roads with water over the top of them anymore. So I feel like it's been a great benefit to the parish. And we do have the ability to cut the contract back if we need to, or we can increase it as we need. So we'll be looking at that hard next year, seeing where the program goes.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and, talking about all the great folks we have, I wanna thank Mr. Davin DePlessis also back there. He's been keeping us in the line and doing a lot of hard work. I really appreciate you, Davin.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move
Who's
on.
Davin, you gonna come up and speak, give a speech?
So we
He's
do-
more,
we do
he's
have-
more of the out in the field, let's fix the problems. He's, right to it and takes care of a lot of issues out in the field with this. He's
Appreciate
done a great
that.
job at it since it started.
So we do have a motion and second, discussion, and no opposition. Motion passed. Number 10, that's another amendment, I'm sorry, that's approval. Mr. Ron?
Number 10 is amendment number 2 to the culvert installation and setting contract with On Grade Construction and increase the contract by additional $60,000. Contract total not to exceed $160,000.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Sadley, second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion. Any opposition? Motion passed. All right, number 11, the approval.
Approval of a bulkhead agreement with the city of Gonzales located at 1015 East Cornerview Road, Gonzales on Bayou Francois at the Jambalaya Park. This is-
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Johnny.
I'll second him, but where's the agreement?
It'll have to be drafted. Cody's gotten with us. We'll do an intergovernmental agreement with the city and the fact. It'll follow our policy of $7,500 too. We normally purchase the materials in that amount for those agreements.
So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, Mr.
Yeah, I might have missed it. I was looking for it back up. So what's the dollar value?
$7,500, and this is residential as well on the major.
Good deal. Thank you.
So this is in compliance with our ordinance
Right.
that we
Policy
have.
Yeah.
That we already
On the
have with
book, yes.
residents.
Yep.
Okay, great.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. No opposition. Motion passed. Number 12, authorization, Mr. Ron.
This is authorization to enter in an agreement between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and USGS in the amount of $119,000 for the maintenance and operation of 14 real-time gauges and 7 flood profile gauges. USGS contribution of $33,000 and East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 contribution is $86,000.
Moved by Mr. Kluwat.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnny. Discussion. Mr. Bill.
Ron, I think this is a great thing, and I know a lot of myself and a lot of our residents use these gauges during the flood events to, they got this tied to someplace on their house so they know what to do. So I'm just curious, can we get some of these points expanded? Can we have more points than what we currently have?
Yeah, you can. We actually just got quotes for the Fish Bayou project. There's a couple of gauges. It's roughly $7,500 a year increase to the agreement to add a gauge. There's not a whole lot of upfront cost, but we do have to construct a platform or a mounting area. We normally absorb that cost, and then they pretty much just amend the agreement to the annual increase.
Well, if it's a pleasure of the commission, I'd like for you to come back with a recommendation of what,
Okay.
where we need some more and.
Sure. We recently, since you brought it up, got with USGS and realized there's a feature with these gauges, mainly at our pumping stations, Buxton subdivision, Astro land. We actually have those critical areas, the tractor pump at Sorrento. We used the last flash flood about a month ago as a benchmark and got to critical levels when we really need to be there. And through smartphones, USGS will send a text to those managers when those levels are reached, and we set them low enough to where they have enough time to respond. So that's a really nice feature to up and coming management teams to help them know when to do things and when to act. So,
Right.
great deal.
Well, we have a motion and a second on this. Any other discussion on the USGS gauges? Not. Motion passed. Before we go into executive session, I want to thank Mr. Chase Melanson for coming and Mr. Tommy Martinez. He has a little homework, but appreciate y'all coming tonight. We'll go on to number 13, the executive session. We need a roll call.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Johnny, second by Mr. Aaron. Roll call, please, Ms. Liz.
Commissioner Cagnolotti?
Yes.
Commissioner Kluwat?
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson?
Yes.
Chairman Dempsey Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Todd Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler?
Yes.
Commissioner Sadley?
Yes.
Passes.
Exactly.
You got the motion.
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Third.
Motion by Mr. Todd, second by Mr. Johnny to reconvene.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Sadler, second by Mr. Randy. We adjourn.